All right, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. First, can you tell me if you can hear me? Make sure you can all hear me.
Yes.
Yes, wonderful. And you can see the slides?
Also, yes.
Also, yes, fantastic. Thank you so much. My name is Lisa Merrifield. I am with University of Illinois Extension, and I am a Community and Economic Development Specialist, and I am your host for today. So thank you in these trying times for joining us to do something a little different. We had intended to be together in Chicago, but I'm actually quite pleased because our attendance has probably quadrupled, being that nobody had to travel. So I think that's all good. I'm thrilled that you're all here. All right, before we get started, let's see, can I advance slides? There we go. A little bit of housekeeping. There we go. We've muted everybody's microphones so that we can make sure that we control the sound. I think we've probably all been on a million of these at this point, so we know how this works. We're asking you to turn off your video, at least initially, so that we can we don't have any bandwidth problems. When we get to the breakout sessions this afternoon, it would be great if you turned on your video so that we can at least have some more of an interactive conversation. As you're viewing, we recommend speaker view because that'll let you see who is presenting. If you have any questions or comments, and I see a lot of you are already putting things in the chat box, let's use the chat box because there are about 160 people registered for this. So I think that's going to be the easiest way to manage questions for our speakers. If you also have technical issues, you can stick those there. My colleague Tony Heath and I will be monitoring that. And I haven't had problems with this, knock on wood, but I have heard that there are some problems with trolls getting in and posting inappropriate content. Tony and I will be watching for that. If you see a link that looks fishy or that one of the presenters hasn't said they're going to put up, please don't click on it, and we'll try and get it taken care of as soon as we can. Hopefully we won't have any issues with that, but just as a word of precaution. And finally, breakouts. Many of you have told me which breakout you want to go in, and we're getting all that sorted out. If you haven't told me which breakout session you want to be in, then we'll assign you so that we keep the groups roughly even. It is in the email that I sent you about the information and the instructions. So if you want to find that, that's where to find that. We'll be assigning over lunch, so I need to know by then or before then. All right, so let's talk a little bit about this project and what we're doing here. So this conversation started in about 2018 at a North Central Region One Water Network meeting. The session was on social justice and water. And I've been thinking a lot about green infrastructure and workforce, and I've been reading a lot about some of the pros and cons and co-benefits of green infrastructure. And we found kind of a nice like-minded community to think about how communities' increasing use of green infrastructure and the knowledge we have about the potential co-benefits and co-harm for green infrastructure. How is it that we come together and we help communities use green infrastructure so that it does more than just solve a stormwater problem, that it really does help our communities be more equitable and enlightened? And another piece of this, we hear over and over that workforce is a real issue and a real difficult kind of thing with green infrastructure. The maintenance is different than traditional gray infrastructure, and so communities have to think about it differently. So are there ways that we can help promote workforce development in a way that's equitable and in a way that we can make careers for people who might be underserved or might otherwise be at risk? So in the spring of 2019, a group of us applied for a planning grant from the North Central Region Water Network, and we were awarded that to look at this opportunity at the intersection of social justice, workforce, and green infrastructure in communities. So our process to date has looked something like this. We started out by doing a general look at what the network looks like already, what groups are already out there, and you'll hear from many of those groups and more about those kinds of things today. We looked at policies and practices around the region, and we did a general overview of communities and what communities are doing what things, so we'd have an idea. From that, we were able to put together some community listening sessions, and you'll hear more about those later this morning. Those community listening sessions really allowed us to talk to practitioners in communities and understand how and what they are thinking and what they're doing and what the barriers are. And from that, we are here today at this summit, which is the culmination of the project. And again, you'll learn about the listening sessions. You'll hear from some of the people that we found who are doing innovative and interesting things. Certainly not everybody, because we're doing it all in one day, but some of the highlights. And then we'll have a chance this afternoon to go into those breakouts and talk a little bit more about the specific issues we're interested in, and how we might go forward, what our priorities might be. So
Hi,
specifically,
Lisa.
yes.
I think your slide is stuck on the housekeeping slide.
Oh, sorry about that.
Been advancing.
Thank you.
There you go.
There's our process. All right. I've got this on 2 screens, and so I don't know. We'll work it out, right? This is the fun of not being live and in person. So in terms of goals for the project and what it is we're looking to do and what it is we want to do today, we were really looking to, as I mentioned, identify best practices and barriers to looking at this intersection between equity, workforce, and green infrastructure. And we're hoping that today, as we've gathered all these kinds of tools and resources and identified some of the needs and gaps, that you will help us prioritize those and help us understand what you think are the most important issues and what it is that we need to do going forward, or we should do going forward, given limited time, resources, and money. And then finally, we're hoping to look at other funding sources and other partners that we can engage in this process. We know that in this quick study, we have not found everybody. So we're hoping to gather from you who maybe some of those other people might be. In terms of outcomes, we will be publishing a white paper through the North Central Region Water Network. And hopefully that will come out, I think, in June or July. We will share that with all of you when it comes out. And you will certainly have an opportunity, if you would like to contribute or help us after today, continue to think through those prioritizations and those funding opportunities and partners. You will have that opportunity to do that. And we're also looking, so there is a nascent Sea Grant community of practice around green infrastructure. We're looking at if there's a way to structure something or build an extension, Sea Grant, and other partners. This isn't a closed system, particularly in the North Central region, but maybe broader than that. Looking at how it is we might structure something like that, what kind of needs might be available, and what opportunities are there. So those are kind of the overdriving or overriding ideas, or the reasons that we're doing this today, and that we hope this will be useful to you and useful to our communities in continuing to produce and continuing to use green infrastructure in ways that maximize benefit. I think you've all seen the agenda today, but we're going to have some presentations this morning. We'll have some breaks. They're not, hopefully they'll be long enough and we won't all be zoomed out by the end of this. 2 weeks ago, I did a 3-day conference via Zoom, and it was a lot. So I imagine we'll all be ready not to look at a computer by the end of the day, but hopefully the content will be good enough that we can stick with it and come up with some good outcomes and learn some good things. Let's see. You know what, I didn't mention that we will have polls throughout this. In doing this, we really want your feedback and we really want you to engage. So after presentations, we'll put up some poll questions and have give you a chance to kind of give us some feedback on what you're thinking and what you're doing in your local regions. So that's the agenda. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you to all of the people who have helped put this together, particularly the North Central Region Water Network, who has been the primary funder for the work. Rebecca Power, Ann Nardi, and Evelyn Hammond have been incredibly helpful and supportive in this process. University of Illinois Extension has also provided some funding and people. I want to thank Ann Silvas and Tony Heath for their work on the project. And then our listening session and summit planning team include Kathy Brown, Megan Gass, Karina Heim, Heidi Lusler, Lissa Radke, Kara Salazar, Carla Walker, and Steve Yoder. So thank you all so much. And with that, I am going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to turn it over to Carla Walker, who is our first speaker.